Hello, I'm going to be talking about a principle called Wu Wei. And Wu Wei is something that is very close to my heart. Wu Wei is the Chinese Taoist principle of, to put it simply, not interfering, no forcing, and actionless action without effort. It can be translated in many ways, and many people say slightly different things, but that is the gist of what Wu Wei is. And to give you an example of why effort and forcing and struggle can be disharmonious for life, I'm going to share with you a few examples. First one, a person is in a car or in a bus and they're drunk. If they fall out of the car or the bus when they're drunk, they're much more likely to land safely because their instincts take over. They're not thinking, what should I do next? And overthinking and struggling in their mind. They just go with the flow and land properly. Whereas if they're sober, they might start to plan how to do it and their instincts aren't there. Another example is something that I find has really been very important for helping me to learn Wu Wei, or just an expression of my own experience of Wu Wei, is when a creative person gets in that flow. So, for example, as an intuitive artist that paints healing paintings, sometimes with animal totems and very strong energies that I'm channeling, I need to be working with the flow of spirit, working with nature. I can't force any of my paintings. The moment I try and force my paintings, I feel like nothing happens. I can't paint, I can't do anything. Whereas if I allow my higher self, my spirit, to guide me, but also I'm part of the process, then my paintings turn out incredibly inspired from my own perspective. And I think that there's many other people that have similar experiences with perhaps music, or if some people, they do specific types of practices to help themselves get in that Wu Wei state. So for example, Zen archery, when you try and shoot using your mind and thinking, then your archery, you don't shoot so straight. Whereas if you totally let go, then you're going to shoot and get the target properly. So this is why interfering with nature, using your mind, using struggle, using effort, can be very detrimental for your results of things you want to achieve, things you're trying to achieve. And the highest level of spirituality that many Taoist traditions seek is that Wu Wei state, where they're totally in the flow most of the time and they're going with nature rather than against it. If, first of all, I'm going to say that some people sometimes misinterpret Wu Wei, which is natural because you can't, become a master of something overnight. You're going to have to, learn through a few failures. And even I sometimes misinterpret Wu Wei because we're all human beings. But Wu Wei doesn't mean absolutely do nothing and surrender and only follow your intuition and only go with the flow. Never use your reason, never force, never take action, because everything you do is forceful, is interfering with nature. You cannot live in this world and not be somewhat of an interference or violent, or, causing some kind of effort. But if you try a little bit more to be more in the flow of nature, to work with nature. So for example, another example from the beginning is when you sail a boat or when you surf, you are working with nature. You're not just using your own ego. And in the same way, another example I've thought of is dancing. If you try and dance using your mind and your logic, it's not as good as when you get in that flow state and you start to dance. So about that, what I was just talking about, using your reason, using logic, you have to be balanced with it. But this is part of Wu Wei. It's going with the flow of nature, and part of nature is using your logic, using your reason, using action and effort where it's appropriate. But if you neglect action and effort and interference at the right time, then you're not really working with nature. You're actually being very unnatural. You're, for example, you're just trying to sit in the corner of the room and do nothing. This is not Wu Wei. This is a fake Wu Wei. So a lot of people, they become perhaps very intuitive, or they learn how to surrender, and they start to get a bit imbalanced with understanding when they should take action, when they should go with the flow, and when they should use their logic, when they should be forceful and interfere with nature. And I have a couple of techniques that I thought really help to alleviate this confusion, because we can talk all day about what is the best way of thinking about it, but if from time to time you start to struggle in your mind and think, when am I being too fake Wu Wei, when am I really going with the flow, when am I taking too much action and I need to surrender, this is something that you can heal with this technique. Okay, the first technique is that you ask yourself, where am I not willing to accept responsibility? Where am I hiding from accepting responsibility of something I need to take more responsibility for? And when you do this, some things might pop up, like I don't accept responsibility for, I'm just going to think of something right now, for the fact that I need to go to bed before 1 and I'm recording a video and I shouldn't be responsible for that, or something like this, where I'm trying to justify that I'm going with the flow, so it doesn't matter, I don't need to take any action. But when you are aware of where you're hiding responsibility from yourself, where you're hiding your own need to be in charge of your life, then you will start to be more appropriate with Wu Wei. So saying this, where am I definitely not responsible for my life, and seeing what comes up. And this doesn't mean that other things are not responsible, or other things are not to blame a little bit, or that you're only to blame. It just means that you're trying to empower yourself by noticing where you're not being in charge, where you could be a little bit more in charge. Or, a lot of people might think something is not my responsibility, so they don't take action where it's appropriate to take action. I remember watching a clip about Wu Wei, and they've summed it up quite well. The misinterpretation that a lot of people might have with Wu Wei. It basically, apart from not making too much effort and not being extreme with that, you need to put the energy into the right places. So it doesn't mean that you never use reason, you never use logic, but it also doesn't mean that you you don't surrender. It just means that you put your energy into the right places and you act appropriately. Okay, so apart from that, there are some techniques that Qigong masters, Taoist healers use um, to become better at mastering the art of Wu Wei, such as certain types of letting go meditations, letting go Qigong practices. And these techniques, when coming from good teachers of healing, are very powerful for helping a person master Wu Wei better. Um, a lot of Qigong teachers and Taoist and shamanic teachers might say the greatest form of Qigong or energy healing is appreciating nature, because nature is a very pure form of energy. It's basically energy that hasn't been interfered with by the human brain. And studying nature, seeing how everything is in harmony, learning from different parts of nature is very helpful for mastering Wu Wei. And I'm going to finish with another technique or method for helping to master Wu Wei, which is learning from herbs. Herbs have certain types of energies which can teach you either to be more yin, which is not taking so much action, being more intuitive, being more receptive, resting appropriately, or to be more yang, which is more forceful and taking action and pushing yourself to the limit and interfering. And because the herbs are so wise and they can teach you through energetics, they over time will help you to develop yin more appropriately or yang more appropriately. And actually, I'm going to carry on with what I'm saying, but um, some yin herbs are Schisandra, goji berry, foti, and romania. And these herbs, taken over a long period of time, are pretty safe in general. You have to use your own instincts, and I'd recommend maybe a month or 2 months and then wean off it, and then maybe another time try again. But these herbs will really teach you where to relax, where to let go, where to not do things. And this is also very beneficial for your yang, because if you're constantly doing things all the time, then you're not able to rest and be yin, which is very important too. And similarly, some yang herbs are euphormia, bark, morinda, and tribulus. These herbs, they provide you more of a kick and explosive power, a expressing of energy, which you need to have in order to have balance. Because if you're scared of being that powerful, being yang, then this will interfere with your yin as well as your yang and your harmony for life. So I just realized that there were a couple of techniques that I've missed out that I wanted to share. And the first technique is, if you're confused about when you should be more forceful and when you should be more letting go and surrendering and using your intuition, then you can simply pray. Pray to your higher self, or to nature, or to God, or whatever you respect in terms of energy, and ask yourself for wisdom and healing regarding when you're being appropriate with surrendering and when you need to be taking more action and when you need to take less action, and have an earnest hope for healing and for wisdom with a intention of love behind you. And if you do this and you meditate on it and maybe take a walk, and some ideas will pop up, like why you think it's good to be uh, surrendering and following your intuition all the time, why you think it's not good to be surrendering and following your intuition. See what ideas come up. Why you think it's good to be taking action all the time, why you think it's not good to be taking action all the time. See what beliefs pop up and see what emotions pop up, and if the emotion is too strong or the belief seems a bit irrational, then look at it and take care of it, and slowly you'll see that your beliefs about these topics, like being forceful or not being forceful, become much more appropriate. The other Qigong technique for developing more yang is iron body or horse stance. Iron body is where you strengthen your bones and your Wei Qi, which is very powerful for being grounded and um, having stronger sexual physical energy, which you need to have um, more spiritual energy and peace and physical chi energy. So iron body is very yang, and it helps to build that yang, and learning it from a very good teacher will help you. Similarly, horse stance will build a lot of yang energy.